This is Councillor Gonglo on the remark made by Vice President Jeremiah Kwankum.
Just 2 days ago, our Vice President made a very inflammatory statement that could escalate the problem between Guinea and Liberia. When he said there are people in Liberia that he did not want to call names, that 2 or 3 of them could take a seat in Guinea. That statement was irresponsible, reckless, and inflammatory, and is not expected of a responsible Vice President of Liberia. He undermined his position by making that statement, jeopardizing the relationship between Liberia and Guinea. We don't need that. I said on my first comment on this issue that I can put my hair on chopping board. Guinea will never fight Liberia because as a former presidential envoy to Guinea, I was told by Guinean authorities that the Republic of Guinea owes so much to Liberia that it can never pay.
Dr. Richardson, let's start with you, right? Irresponsible, reckless, and this is exactly what Tawan Gonglo is saying, inflammatory. Do you agree with Councillor Gonglo that the Vice President remark was irresponsible, reckless, and inflammatory?
Yes, I agree with the Vice President with Tawan Gonglo, that the Vice President's remark was inflammatory and irresponsible. Is consistent with what I believe, that there's a lot of disjointed belief system that is going on in the government. The president is calling for soft diplomacy, and we have the vice president saying that I have someone persons in the country that can, take over a city, that can go and do some kind of tactical maneuver of a military maneuver and take over a city, and he was referencing Guinea. I think that as the vice president, he should be very careful. He shouldn't undermine his position, as Tawan Gonglo said. I believe that he's telling us there's people in our country that is being paid to do this work. Is that in the budget? He should know better, and he should have stuck to keeping one line. Soft diplomacy. Diplomacy is what we're working on with the people from Guinea. But I believe that his statement has the potential of undermining him if he intends to be president for all Liberians, because he's trying to tell us that there are people who are working covertly in our country. How am I supposed to feel safe when the vice president knows that there are people that are working covertly in my country that could go and undermine another country? Thank you.
Dr. Richardson, thank you very much. We're going to jump straight into the conversation. It's very important. Let me bring you in Wilfred Bangura. What do you think? We call people as they enter studio today. Irresponsible, reckless, inflammatory. That's it, Tawan Gonglo, Councillor Gonglo. Well, do you believe it? Is that true?
Hey, Stanton, and hi to my fellow panelists. It's great to be on the show tonight. I certainly disagree with Councillor Gonglo. The councillor is a well-learned council. We have a lot of respect for him. But I thought that today he misspoke, and I thought that he needs to rethink his comments. The vice president's remarks about the situation happening at our border was in context. It was very clear. It was brought to the show. It was analyzed, and we reached a conclusion that indeed we agree with him that the pathway the government was pursuing was soft diplomacy. At the same time, he, as a national leader, had a responsibility to calm an intrepid nation that all was not lost, and that we're not cowards here in this republic, and that even people on this show stated that they are prepared. They will be prepared, to defend the republic. Nobody will sit here and people come and overrun us like chickens. Opposition members were unanimous with the government that when it comes to the defense of the sovereignty, we were going to do that. So for the councillor to misunderstand that and equate that to inflammatory remarks, I thought that his remarks instead were inflammatory. And I thought that normally as an opposition leader or as a political leader, you want to to make comments on trending national issues. But you know, he should really carefully rethink his comments. But I thought that he spoke completely out of context. I disagree with him. The vice president did not speak inflammatorily. He uttered and reiterated the position of the government, which was the pathway of the pursuit of soft diplomacy in the event. And then at the same time, he had to give hope to a nation that was in panic, that all was not lost. They should remain calm.
Thank you very much. We want to say, let's play exactly what thank you very much, Bangura. Let's play exactly what the VP said, and we'll go to the rest of the team, guys. Let's follow.
I can't make it. We got fighting forces here beside the army. I can cause only 2-3 persons can cross in the morning to capture one whole city in some country. Yeah. They happen.
There you go. I think we're going to play the full clip, but let me bring you in quickly, Russell, before we go to Henry and Fubi. Russell, I mean, you consider what Tawan Gonglo is saying. The VP statement was irresponsible, reckless, and inflammatory, causing problem more harm than good when you look at our position from the Guinean side. Winfrey, Russell.
That thank you, Stanton. That would not be my conclusion. I disagree with Councillor Gonglo. I don't think that the Vice President's statement, I would not, for sure, I would not interpret it as being reckless or irresponsible by any means. I think the current Vice President spoke candidly, but he was very forthright in what he had to say about the situation there. So I would not, for sure, I would not describe it the way Councillor Gonglo, with all due respect to him, would not describe it in such a manner.
Thank you very much. I'm going to bring you in. What's you, Emmanuel George? What do you think?
Well, Stanton, I'm not surprised that the learned counselor, one of the most respectable Liberians, a person who is known for his straightforwardness and his discipline, who speak to that issue. I'm not surprised. I raised it on the show when it came up. In the initial setting, the vice president said, I think there was a beep, so we couldn't get it clear, that we have people outside of the AFL or beside the AFL that are trained. That is concerning. Who are these people that is outside of the armed forces of Liberia? We are expected by now in the vice president office who have given some clarity on those words, whether he said outside, inside, or besides. But unfortunately, we have not got any clarity from that, and that is concerning. Some of his people have come up to say reservists, but every reserve force have a general that commands them. Who is the general, or who is the commander of this reserve force? If we want to say it's reserve force, unfortunately, not one of the people can tell us who is the commander of the reserve forces that they are speaking to. So yes, it's concerning. We should be concerned about that. I agree with others with Bangura on one point. He came to clean it up after he had blundered in the beginning of the statement. He came to clean it up that will go towards peace, but he raised the concern. And we should be concerned that if we have people trained outside of the armed forces of Liberia, who are paying those people? Where the budget line coming from? Who are they? Who is the commander? Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's good to have you. Let's go to my brother Fubi. Fubi, what's your take on Taiwan statement?
Yeah, so firstly, the vice president is now under obligation to explain to you any extra forces that we have outside of AFL or the office, and now under obligation to explain that. And the real person that is making the inflammatory statement is the Councillor Gonglo, because the vice president spoke clearly, and he was very, very much on point with his point, with his statement. At all point, he's telling the people of Guinea or everybody In the first thing, the vice president didn't say you got troops that can, got 1 or 2 men that can enter Guinea and capture a city. He didn't mention Guinea in that direction. So he misquoted the vice president. That's wrong. The vice president also said, and anybody would say that, I have people that are capable of fighting and standing up for the country. But we chose peace. And we're going to explore the peace option. So for Councillor Gongolo to leave all of those parts and just take the first sentence and say the vice president is being inflammatory, he's inciting, and he want to bring war between Guinea and Liberia, or he want to damage our relationship. Who actually damaging the relationship? Guinea that crossed their country, enter our country and planted their flags. They are the one that damaging the relationship. It's not Liberia. It's not the vice president's statement. So if anybody who want to provoke war is the Guineans, the Guineans, not the Liberians, and not the vice president's statement that caused that. So I expected a consider, but anyway, he's a politician. So he's trying to pin his political, statement to incite his base, but that would not fall on, on fertile ground because many Liberians are.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me ask you a question though. You said the vice president's statement wasn't towards Guinea when you said we have 1 or 2 men that can cross and capture the city.
He said to enter in a city and capture a city. He didn't say Guinea.
Well, hold on 1 minute. We didn't hear you. You said, what did he say?
He didn't say he got 1 or 2 men that can enter Guinea and capture a city. He didn't say that.
Oh, but he was with the whole thing was about Guinea, right?
But his statement, he didn't say he got men that can enter Guinea.
The whole conversation, the question was about Guinea, right?
The point is he didn't mention Guinea.
The context of that question and answer, it was about Guinea though.
Enter any country.
If you didn't answer whether it was about Guinea, then we'll move to the next step.
Enter any country. He didn't say Guinea.
So you're wasting my time now. Let me bring you in. Tamba Aguilas. Let me bring you in, Tamba. It's good to have you.
Yeah, thank you, Stanton, and good evening to everyone on the panel and to listeners in Radio Land. It's a pleasure to be here. My voice is coming back. I haven't been here regularly because I lost my voice after my malaria sickness. But I have followed, what is happening in Liberia. And I said this morning, I said, Liberia, you wake up every day, it's a new topic. It's a new debate. But what the vice president said when it comes to the issue that's happening across, between Liberia and Guinea, I think the vice president spoke in context. And I think I will join others who disagree with Councillor Gongolo here. And here's why. When you are in conflict, and we are not in conflict with Guinea. Guinea has encroached on our land, and we don't want to get into conflict. We don't want to go to war. And even Guinea knows that. And we know the history between Liberia and Guinea. But in times of war, leaders have to be able to defend the Constitution, but also to boost the morale of the people in uniform, no matter who the enemy is. I live in Guinea as a refugee for close to 10 years. In fact, I traveled to the States from Guinea as a refugee, as an international student. So we understand the proximity and the relationship with Guinea. But when Guinea is provoking us, our leaders have to also be able to stand firm and support our men in uniform, no matter what. But also the second aspect is that, opposition will be opposition. Ruling position, their role is to rule, is to govern. And in this case, the vice president is trying to send the message that we chose peace because we are known as people of peace who have experienced war, and Guinea hasn't experienced war. So even though he spoke in context, and there's a clear message to Guinea that Liberia cannot be a pushover, and we shouldn't be afraid of Guinea. We don't want war with Guinea, but no Liberian and no elected official should be afraid of Guinea. And
so thank you, Tamba. But Tamba, thank you though. So you go contrary to what Fubi is saying. He wasn't talking about Guinea, but you say it's a clear message to Guinea. So you guys, I know y'all, we want to say our own, but you saying that he was saying a clear message to Guinea. That's what you just said. But Fubi said no. He didn't mention Guinea. He wasn't talking about Guinea.
I'm not afraid to say what I mean. He spoke in context, and he was referring to Guinea, but he spoke in context.
I applaud you because exactly that's how people understood it. But thank you very much. Let me bring in Dr. Bople. Dr. Bople, let's hear you on this Guinea issue.
Senator, Councillor Gongolo is a well-respected lawyer, public servant. I have a lot of respect for what he says. In this context, though, the vice president spoke. And the vice president is saying that we have capability, we have ability. He's the vice president. What is he supposed to say? Oh, we're afraid. We're going to die. These people going to take over the country. No. He said we have ability and we're able to do X, Y, and Z. So I don't consider that reckless or irresponsible. I do think that when you put that next to what we're trying to do, which is solve diplomacy, that is not very helpful. Now, there's a thing called comparative advantage in economics. You can use it, I won't use it in the political term. You can play basketball better than me. I can play football better than you. I always want to play football. I think we are strong in the area of soft diplomacy. That's our comparative advantage. And that's where we need to be, and that's where we are. Also, we are a war-weary nation. Nobody going to do unnecessary bravado. But the vice president can speak and say, we're not weak, we're strong, it's okay.
Thank you.
It was Sunday that I will tell you there was a story about David and Goliath, but it's not Sunday, so I'll not tell you that story.
I know that story very well, but I want to say thank you very much, Chateau. At the end of the day, the rest is history. Let me bring in my brother, Councillor Kanyo Babala. Councillor?
Well, thank you, Stanton. I think if we're having elections on the vice president's speech, as of now, the votes will be in, and these are all very level-headed people. It will be clear that the vice president did not speak recklessly. Rather, he spoke as a leader. He spoke as a leader of a country that's concerned. On this platform, we've raised many issues. You, Stanton, about what's happening in Solumba. The government was beat on multiple times. Sometimes I wonder what the opposition people want. First, they say the president is weak because he's being diplomatic, which I found very strange. Then the vice president says, look, we're going to pursue diplomacy, but that does not mean we're weak. We have a history of defending ourselves, and if it must come to that, we could defend ourselves, but we are pursuing peace. Then they get mad again. But here's what I want to say, particularly about my senior colleague, who I respect so very much, Councillor Gonglo. You know, politics has a way of changing mindset, and I see it creeping into Councillor Gonglo slowly. The first instance was with Yeke, and I will juxtapose the Yeke situation with this statement. Yeke made some very base and reckless statements. Interestingly, Councillor Gonglo's position on the Yeke statement was, Yeke had free speech. People are trying to oppress Yeke. He's standing up for Yeke's rights. This thing, Councillor Gonglo. The vice president comes out to bolster confidence as a leader of the country. Then the same Councillor Gonglo who said that Yeke has the right to make those reckless statements that can take us to war as a lawmaker flips. And then comes on the side and say it is now the vice president being reckless. What does Councillor Gonglo want? This politics thing has a way of creeping into the best of us and twisting the way we engage. And you can see the clear, you know, I don't want to use the H word, but you can see the clear disparity in the analysis. One Councillor Gonglo saying, Yeke can say the Guineans, we sold the land to the Guineans own the land, is not reckless, it is free speech. Then the same Councillor Gonglo can come back and say, just because the vice president says that if push comes to shove, we have men, that is reckless. So no, Stanton, this one, our senior colleague, our own Pape, he made a very big mistake. Not every statement gets to be politicized. Let those who won't be president in their parties, let them say what they have to say. But in this case, Liberians crave leadership, security. They need to know that our leaders are on the ball. And I believe Vice President Kun spoke in that context. It was so very important. That's my position on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're in with our brother Jacob Jada on this issue. Brother Jacob, what say you?
Stanton, on the matter of the border issue, my approach is different. So first of all, the way I look at what is happening at the border is the fact that I'll give a typical example. I'll give an example. Let's say, for example, in my home, in my house, you know, I have my children, my family, everybody. I'm responsible to provide security and protection for them. And then I have an aggressor, you know, next door, an aggressive neighbor who comes in and exhibit aggressive behavior. Now, what will I do in that context, normally speaking, from my point of view? Of course, naturally speaking, I will pursue the line of peace. I will try to get the police involved. I will try to get an amicable resolution along the way. However, personally speaking, I will not renege from the I will not dismiss the possibility of letting that possible aggressive neighbor know that I possess capability to defend myself. It's natural to me. And I think on the border crash, and you go anywhere, the United States, imagine if Mexico gets across the border to Mexico City and try to encroach on American land. Why you think if J.D. Vance comes out and say America has the ability to protect itself while they pursue peace to resolve the matter, will we call that reckless? I will not call that reckless. I will not call that reckless. I will not call that inflammatory. I think the Guineans, and Councilor Bongo said the Guineans would never do certain things you've been before. But that's not true. The Guineans have violated our territorial integrity. They've stepped across the border and disrespected the map and stepped all over Liberia and disrespect. So they've already crossed the red line in our Senate. Again, I will maintain, don't get me misunderstood. I believe in the peace process. I believe the government should pursue peace. We don't want war. That would be detrimental to all of us. You know, and all of that. We don't want that. You know. However, I don't think the leadership of this country should shy away from saying, making it unequivocally clear that the people of this country, not certain people, that the people of this country, the Jacob Jada, everyone, 5.3 million people carry the potential to defend ourselves. It will be cowardice not to say that. For me, let me be clear. It will be cowardice not to say that. We will not have an aggressor who will kind of walk over us here, and somebody like me will not volunteer legitimately to go and try to defend ourselves. So these comments must be made clear. So I don't think, I will not use the word reckless, inflammatory. And again, if I let you quickly update the CEO, I will potentially, if I have the vibrant, potentially will not have give the example to say we can go in other people's place. No, but he has to say, the president of the country or the vibrant is right to say we Liberians will defend ourselves, which is a natural, normal thing to do. If we have any aggressive behavior from our neighbors, we can defend ourselves. I think that's a fair statement to make.
So again, we are looking at the recklessness of the statement. And I want to say to all of you, folks on this set, in Unity Party, in the country, beating on American, we might about maybe around 2,000 military personnel. You can say his sources tell him, or whatever way you want to frame what he said. The lawmakers say they removed Yeke because his statement was terroristic. Then the change they say it is against the policy and rules and whatever nonsense they have. Can you just believe? They are silencing folks not to talk about the border. So, but when it comes to the vice president, Jeremiah Kwankun, I think he slipped. That's not a way to go. I would take a position. If we talk about soft diplomacy, it should be soft diplomacy. We shouldn't go in there and say we got men to defend. Yes, we do. But I don't think it's the time of season to say such a thing. You cannot be petting the lion to get your hands out of the lion's mouth. Then you go slap the lion's eye. And you say, I will pet the lion. This is, I think, the vice president, I would take this position, and I don't care how kind you look at me bad way of Fubi Herring that's saying he wasn't talking about Ghana. Who you were talking about? The vice president was referring to Guinea. You think the pen we're talking about Nigeria? No. The whole conversation was about Guinea. But I beg you, let me do my own 1 second closing now. The whole thing was about Guinea. I think if you ask the vice president to re-answer that question, he wouldn't have said what he said. And he would never say such a thing, because you cannot tell the Guineans that you got people watching them and waiting to go in Guinea and take, you know, some of the town and villages. It's an out of war. Then let me do my closing time, please. When you're talking at the end, you say 1 minute. And at the end of the day, I think the vice president will rethink. I don't know what my brother Jacob Jara had. 1 minute he said, well, he was fired. Thank you for your service to the nation. Then another minute he said, the vice president will not say it again. So that Richardson, I do agree with you. I think if we're doing self-diplomacy, it should be self-diplomacy. And I think it's about time for the president to give the country another update. Because the last time the president spoke that to Richardson, the Guineans stay at the border. So maybe the president should do every 3 months, give us update every month, every day, every week. What are we doing? Even if you go record at the border and they say looking for you to arrest you, our reporter, they were trying to arrest our reporter and told him that the day he go live again, they will arrest him and jail him. That's not right, though. If we got to discuss this border issue, we should discuss it holistically. And if not the president, it should be the information minister. Somebody got to tell us from the government what's the status of the border crisis. We still got issues at the border. And they said, don't talk about it. Yeah, so Unubuni, Suruba, whatever the name is, that's a wretched sin. What we know happening at the border today? The Guineans stay there? Yes, they are. Are they leaving? We don't know. How far have President Barker gone? We move. I want to say thanks for all of your opinion on this matter, and the Liberian people deserve it. Let's continue to have a great show, because this one today will be powerful. And what Tewan Gonglo said, I'll tell you why I agree with Tewan. You can say what you want to say about me. I do agree with Councilor Tewan Gonglo. I think the vice president slipped. His statement was a little bit reckless, and I think he will reconsider not to drive in that direction anymore. And I believe what Tewan Gonglo said, he spoke from experience, and he spoke when you talk about diplomacy. And I agree with Councilor Tewan Gonglo. The vice president should do better when he's speaking on this issue. Now, we move to the next one.
To be fair, Tewan Gonglo made some factually incorrect statement. He said,
but you finish, but yeah, how we can do this thing, brother? You told all your thing, you didn't say it. Now we close the thing, you want to come back and say to be fair. To be fair, where? You and who arguing about fairness? I beg you, my member. You finish talking your own, let go. To be fair, where? Go find to be fair. To be fair, it's in reality market. We move. But when you start talking about we go.